Here we are back at it again. Another night, another video. And today I want to talk about a subject that's again getting a lot of popularity, but not the popularity that it should. It's not getting the attention that it should, right? And today what we're talking about are the trades. Now, more specifically for myself, I am in one of the trades, which is construction. And fortunately for us, we're going to be talking about that today. Let's jump right into it.
It's been on my mind a lot how the construction industry is constantly changing. Being an advocate for the trades and pushing people into a blue collar workforce always has me wondering where this industry is headed. I want to make sure that myself as an individual, if I'm advocating for the trades, that the trades are a good place to end up. I don't want people to end up in this industry and regret it. Today I'd like to go over a handful of things in the construction industry and talk to you a little bit more about them. My personal thoughts on where the industry is today, where we were 30 years ago, and where we will be in 30 years from now. The bottom line is this industry employs 8 million per year and cranks out over $2 trillion in work every single calendar year. The construction industry as a whole is a huge part of the United States economy. But there's a few things that are different about the construction industry in the United States. Where some industries are led by larger corporations, the majority of construction companies are rather small. 57% of construction firms employ less than 200 people. Now that might not seem all that crazy to you, 200 employees is quite a few. But 81.48% employ less than 10 people. That means that 3/4 of the construction companies in the United States are very small business owners. 10 employees is not that many.
Before he actually gets started with the video, this one thing I will say specifically about construction. Now, I operate heavy machinery, heavy equipment, which is anything hydraulic excavators, bulldozers, or trucks that have the fifth wheel that you hook a trailer up to and you haul around, your equipment, skid steers, backhoes, anything like that. What I will say about it is the one thing I do like about it is not very hard to learn. That's one thing I do like about it. It is simple. The work in itself may not be simple when it comes down to operating because you have different soil types, you have different weather that may interfere with what you're doing. But all in all, it's a simple job. It's just at times it can be tough. Just let him finish.
My fear for this industry is the skilled trades gap that we've talked about many, many times now. We have way too many open job positions. We have a huge housing crisis that makes it so that most people can't afford a home. That means that 3/4 of the construction companies in the US are small business owners. That's much different than the tech world where most people have 400, 500 employees and they're worth 400, 500 million. A lot of these people are just like you and I. Now the issue that I see in the future and right now is a skills gap. We have very few people entering the trades and we have a whole lot of people leaving. I think we're gonna run into a big problem here soon, and I know we've already ran into it a little bit as far as finding and retaining labor. But let's talk about one of the issues and how it's only going to hurt us more as the years go by. In 2022, the average age of a construction worker was 41, and about 45% of construction workers were older than 45. And that's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In 1986, the average age was 36. Now that might not seem like a big jump. We have a 5-year difference. But what it's telling us is that people are now sticking in construction longer than they have to, and the younger generation simply isn't coming in. This has been our problem for years now. It might seem irrelevant, you might argue that medicine has people living longer. And before we get too far into this, everything that I'm saying today is strictly my own opinion. You guys are more than willing to combat my opinion. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I'm just putting out statistics and talking about the issues that I see in front of me with the connections that I've got and the network that I've got.
Oh, if you guys follow me and listen to my videos, I said that was one of the reasons that I intended on picking up a trade because I did see a huge need for something that I believe isn't there right now. If you understand like basic economics and basic things about business, what happens when the demand is super high, but the supply is very low? Unfortunately, for a lot of people, the supplier is going to have to raise their price up to an extreme level where it's almost unaffordable. Or it can be an affordable job, but it may not get done as fast because of the limited availability. And when I look at what he said, the skills gap, now we see that nowadays a lot of the older people, and this is just what I've noticed, a lot of the older people are retiring out. They're moving on. They want to move on with their life. They're 40, 50, 60. It's time for them to retire. And there's no one to fill in those gaps, right? But I started out with my uncle, and I started out doing like small jobs with him, whether that was Habitat for Humanity, I think it was called, or something like that. But we did small jobs, where that was like grout, gutting the house, laying tile, tearing out a bathroom, things like that. Very small job, pressure washing, and that's when I learned like the fulfillment of blue collar work. I liked it a lot. So when it comes to him speaking about the skills gap and the shortage that we're going to have, I agree 100% with him. In the next decade, I believe the gap is going to be so wide that you're going to be almost be able to charge what you want. Now, when it comes to him saying, I think he said 57% of the companies who employ construction workers have less than 200 employees. To me, that's very small. But I believe it's very small because there aren't enough people who are educated and experienced enough who have these skills that can fulfill these roles. Now, when it comes to building your house or building your apartment complex or building a school, building a bridge, these aren't people with 2, 3, 4 years of knowledge that you want attempting these projects. These are people you want to have 10, 15, 20 years who can oversee the whole project and who can kind of put people who have different strengths in the places they need to be to get the job done. So that's why I feel it's so essential. All of the skyscrapers, the elevators, the houses, the apartments you live in, you don't want the floor caving in. You don't want it to be a foundation that's weak. You want these things to be strong, and you want people who are well versed and very talented at what they do to be able to do these things. So that's why I feel that it's so essential, right? Now, let's get on to the next part of the video.
The bottom line is that the construction industry as a whole is aging, and we lack the youth that's going to fill those shoes. Now, I'm not basing this just on statistics. This is also off of what I've experienced in the field as well. I got started in the construction industry back in 2012. I've been in this industry, I've built homes in this industry for the past 12 years, and I've seen a lot of people come and go, and I've worked alongside a lot of people that back in 2012 were in their 30s and now they're getting close to 50. Along with that, with the network that we've built out here on social, I am practically only friends with other industry professionals. So when I say that I've heard the same thing over and over from everybody saying that they can't find labor, they can't retain labor, the young people don't want to stick around, there's got to be some sort of truth to it. So let's talk about that. I hear the same thing over and over. It's hard to find new help, it's hard to keep good help, and most of the time the people that have a solid crew are built out in their 40s and 50s and even their 60s. These people aren't young. Most of the people that I know that have younger crews have a very hard time with retention. Employees come and go, there's a lot of turnover, and they're constantly struggling to find new people to fill those shoes. This leads me to ask you though, with an average construction worker age of 41, and nearly half of our employees in the construction industry being over 40, what's going to happen in 20 years when the people that are 40 and 50 now retire, leave the industry, and we don't have enough people coming in? Based on statistics and surveys, for every 4 people we have leaving the industry, we have 1 coming in. With all that said, I want to share my thoughts on why this is happening. I want to share my thoughts on why the construction industry as a whole seems to have fallen, where we're at now as an industry, and where I think we should be at in 10 to 15 years.
Let's talk about that a bit, because I'm still relatively young, right? Especially when it comes to business. I feel like I'm a baby when it comes to business. But when it comes to life, I've had a lot of experiences. And what he's saying with his decade of experience and knowledge in the construction industry, me only having almost 3 years, I can see the exact same thing. Whereas is the I hate to say it, y'all. I apologize if this offends anybody. The 18 to 22-year-old crowd, they are not with it, y'all. They are not with it. I think we all can agree. They're not about getting their hands dirty. They're not being about covered in dirt and paint and oil and coming out looking dirty every day and doing those crappy jobs in order to get that baseline knowledge and experience to be able to move up in the future and along in their life, right? They're just not with it. I've worked those jobs, so I don't mind saying it. I've worked those jobs where they hand me a little small brush and say, "Hey, go scrub those baseboards till they turn white." And I've been scrubbing them for days, and they never turn white, right? I've worked those jobs where it's, "Hey, I need you to go from this store 45 minutes down the road to another store," and I get there, and I'm the only manager there, and we kill it, and we do a great job, and when we close up shop at night and I look around and I'm like, everything's clean. People were satisfied. We didn't have that many complaints. The people live happy. Like, and it's me and maybe two more people there. And I'm like, this was a good job. That's very fulfilling. But what I've noticed is that age group that I mentioned, they don't want to go through that. For some reason, they believe that, hey, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to graduate college, and I'm going to go straight into my career field. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to be a CEO, a founder. I'm going to start. It just don't work like that. Now, are there exceptions to the rule? Yes, but the exceptions to the rule kind of proves the rule. It's totally insane. And maybe I think different because I had advisors in college who would give me a roadmap or give me certain goals, short-term goals, smart goals, who would say, hey, you need a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, 1, 3, 5-year goals, and where do you want to be? What type of income do you want? Who do you see yourself being? Maybe I think different because I had that at their age and they may or may not have it. But I do see a huge issue with the younger guys coming in and they just don't get the structure of an organization or a company and how things work. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the work, even if it may be for those 2 years. If you come in for 1, 2, 4 years and you blowing everybody out the water with your talents and your knowledge base, then hey, more power to you. But at the same time, you still have to go in and you got to be consistent and put in the work and put in quality work, right? To prove yourself, for yourself to be dependable to these people, that you have integrity and that you can provide quality work. All right. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But I do see a lot of kids nowadays, they're just not with it. They don't want to put in no work, man. So let's get on to the next part of the video.
As a whole, one of the most common things that I hear across the board is that people want to move up to a journeyman level. They want to run work, but they don't want to put in the footwork to get to that point. They want to be at the top of the food chain without actually putting in the work that puts you at the top of the food chain. Now, I can relate to this because back in 2012 when I started working in construction, I was at the bottom of the food chain. I made California minimum wage and not $1 more. I signed a waiver to work for my uncle's construction company and said that I would not touch a saw, a nail gun, a drill, or any sort of tool that could possibly hurt me. I was strictly there to pick up lumber, move stuff around, and clean up. Back then, I knew that I wanted to be able to run crews, teach people things along the way, and the idea of being in charge is appealing to anybody. The issue that I see today is people are very short-sighted. They don't want to put in the effort that goes along with becoming a journeyman carpenter. Instead of attempting to learn to build better, or have more knowledge, or be able to run crews, they want to know what it's going to take to be the top dog on site. So many get lost in focusing on how they're going to make more instead of how they can be worth more. This goes back simply to the fact that people want instant gratification. They don't want to put in the work, but they want the rewards. Whereas in the construction industry, you literally need to climb the ladder from being a laborer to being able to run projects. It's not an easy step and it's not going to happen overnight. The problem with this once again comes back to technology. It doesn't help that we have social media ads plastered everywhere saying that people are making $50,000 to $100,000 monthly trading Forex or buying Bitcoin or trading stock options. The idea that you could become rich or very, very wealthy without putting in a whole lot of effort is appealing to most. In reality, though, it's not true. As opposed to spending 2 to 4 years of your life becoming a tradesperson that has the skills in order to build, most people want to either jump straight to the top or figure out some sort of corner to cut to get there. Now, that's just one reason why I feel that we have a very, very big lack of new tradespeople coming in, is due to the fact that in a fast-paced world that we live in right now, where social media compares everybody to everybody else, people don't want to go through the trouble of 2 to 4 years of training to be in a position where they can make decent money. They want to figure out a quick method that they can make their money. Now, speaking of money, the next reason I feel like the construction industry is having a hard time right now is due to the actual pay grade itself. 81% of construction companies employ less than 10 people, right? These companies often have a hard time paying benefits, 401ks, and other perks that most bigger companies are able to provide. This is a double-edged sword and a huge problem for our construction industry.
I got to come to the young people's defense right here. I hear so much of the older generation saying instant gratification, instant gratification, instant gratification. That's the issue with the younger generation. Now, while I do agree majority with that, this is one thing that I have seen and that I will say about this older generation. The older generation do not want to give younger people their props. Just because you have 10, 15 years in the game and you see somebody who just got this license and they haven't established themselves yet, this person could very well take your company to the next level because they are extremely talented. And that's something that the older generation misses out on. When I see somebody 13, 14, and they can do stuff that I couldn't do at their age, I never be like, who he think he is, or we'll see when you get my age. No, I want this person to keep that motivation up, to keep getting better, so he can come out here and crush records and blow everybody out the water and crush and eliminate the competition, so he can be the top dog. Because that might be the person that eventually gets on my team and helps take us to the next level. Y'all be hating. So I could see why the younger generation would go somewhere and feel like I've been here 3-4 years and they ain't even considering me for the next level. And I'm outworking everybody. I'm more talented than everybody, but they think I need to be here 17 years to achieve this level. Bro, it's not the same for everybody. Everybody don't learn at the same pace. Everybody don't have the same talents. Just because it took you 7 years to learn something, it might take this person 7 months. That's just a fact of life. So I gotta come to the young people defense when I say that. A lot of times the older generation, y'all be some haters, dog. And I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. A dude who's just naturally talented and want to put his gifts out there and market himself, and he want to be paid and he wants to be compensated fairly for his gifts and his abilities and capabilities, you can't be upset with that. And a lot of times I don't blame them. I would urge them to leave too. If you're not valued where you are, leave. They don't deserve it, period. Go start your own thing. If you're not that business savvy, go find the people that are and you go put in the work. Because they're not going to value you. They are already set in their ways. They're already set in what they do, and that's what they believe. So go and prove them wrong. That's what I believe. I have to come to their defense because a lot of times it's not instant gratification. I see a lot of talented people all the time, and I'm like, bro, you getting slept on. Like, why are you still here? Why are you still doing that? They obviously don't care about you. They obviously don't value you because you're not being compensated. You're not being considered for the next position. You're not being considered for those top jobs. And you're proving yourself. Just because you've been doing this a long time and it took you that long to figure it out, it may not take that younger dude that long to figure out. It really may not. But that's what it comes down to a lot of the times for me. So I'm sorry, but I had to come to the younger people's defense in that realm and say that. Because I do see a lot of them 18, 19, 20, 21, and they think already like with 2 years, like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. But it's like, are you performing that well? And can you continue to perform that well over time? Maybe, maybe not. If you're not already performing at that level, then absolutely not. 100%. You're not being considered for anything. Just master the level that you're at until you get to that next level. But I'm going to get on to the next part of the video. Maybe I got off the topic.
The issue we face right now in the United States is what we call a housing shortage. We don't have nearly enough houses for the amount of people that we have here. We're about 2 million units short, housing units that is, of being on good terms again. The issue is that developers are set on making money, which ultimately brings the cost of every single trade down to where they can maximize their profit. These companies don't develop homes to lose money. This makes it a race to the bottom for the majority of these people that are bidding on the subcontracting. The framing, the concrete, the HVAC, plumbing, every trade that goes into building. It is a race to the bottom. Who's going to be the cheapest? And let me tell you, on these housing tracts, on these subdivisions, they don't care who builds them as long as the numbers work. But the ultimate problem is that it's a race to the bottom to be the cheapest possible person you can be to get these contracts for these big developers. Now, the companies building high-end homes, multi-million-dollar customs for very wealthy individuals, typically have the ability to pay the higher salaries, offer the 401k, the benefit, the paid leave, etc. Now, the issue with that is these companies that build these high-end homes don't make up the majority of building in the United States. While they can offer the higher salaries, the 401k, the benefits, it's only going to impact a select amount of people, not the majority.
Now, that was a very nice breakdown, and I'm glad he did mention that about the business side of it, where he mentioned in negotiations, in bids, there's a race to the bottom, right? And if you raise the cost of labor, then obviously everything else goes up, and people want to keep it manageable. They want to keep it affordable. I 100% agree with that. Again, it's basic economics, right? Supply and demand and affordability. So what he said, can you blame him for that? No. But I think in the negotiation you should come into it strong. You have to meet in the middle. Because if that's the case where it's a race to the bottom and you want to pay cheaper wages and you want to get great quality for cheaper, then you're just not going to have as many people going to it. So I think at that point the industry should die because you're not doing what you need to fulfill people. So if you're telling everybody to fight for these couple roles or these couple positions that top out at this or only pay this, what's left for everybody else? Why wouldn't they go to a different industry? Why wouldn't they go to something else where they're the type of person that are going to maximize their skills and their learning and be compensated fairly for it? I like what he did there, where he broke it down. He really did ask the question, can you blame him? I don't blame y'all at all. Now, if it's something you love, the money shouldn't matter. But at the same time, you have to be able to make a living for yourself and be able to take care of your family, right? We have to look at those things. And I think that the people that win these bids, man, come on now. If you're in the business at any type of level, you understand negotiation, and they know what they're doing. So I like his breakdown right there, and I like what he did. Now let's finish up the video.
Therefore, cutting the funding on the hands-on blue-collar paths to implement the computer paths seemed to be counterproductive, considering now we're in a position where we have way too few houses, we don't have enough people in the construction industry, and here we are talking about it today. Instead of cutting the funding to construction and funding the computer classes, if we could have just simply funded both of them, then we'd probably be in a different position today. Now the issue is we live in a world where computers are still a very big part of our day-to-day lives, right? From cell phones, computers at home, a lot of the work is done digitally. Heck, we have Zoom calls where people talk to each other different sides of the country or the world even. The issue is building and construction is still as big, if not bigger, than it was in the early 2000s. We needed both the computer classes and the hands-on classes in order to be in a better position today, but we cut the funding to one of them. Luckily, we have grants in place from states, counties, etc. that are bringing back funding to construction classes, shop classes, welding classes, and more, getting kids hands-on and showing them that they have different options. This is a huge part in fixing the skills gap that we have right now, because even in my graduating class of 2014, my guidance counselors, my educators were telling me that college was the way to go and that that's the way to success, and if you want to do it right, you're going to college. Never did it get brought up that I could go into the skilled trades and become a plumber. I have a plumber making $250 an hour with a van. You think he's doing bad? He's doing great. The reason that I push so hard for the skilled trades is because of the fact that every road we drive on, every light switch you flip on, every toilet that you flush, every sink you turn on, every hospital you've been in, everything has been built by the hands of blue-collar people around this country. That alone is enough to say that this industry is pretty damn impressive. Now, why do I advocate for the skilled trades? What is the purpose? Why is it a viable option? A career in the trades allows you to have a set of skills that you can take nationwide, even worldwide, and allow you to work and make money and make a living. If you can frame in California, you can frame in New York, you could frame in Florida. Things are going to change structurally, but for the most part, it's the same as riding a bicycle. If you can ride a 20-inch BMX bike, you can likely ride a 26-inch mountain bike. You get the point? And I've said it for years, the American dream is home ownership, and the fact that we can build that, those of us that are in the skilled trades, we can build that, is incredible. It's the same as being a mechanic and having car troubles. You'll be able to take care of those things. I've replaced the roof on my wife's grandparents' house. I've swapped water heaters for family members, patched in random holes, and fixed baseboard. I have fixed countless odds and ends for people, all with knowledge that I've gained from this industry. Now, the idea that blue collar is lesser than white collar has, in my opinion, faded out. I know a lot of people that are in the white collar workforce that have transitioned out into working blue collar. They're now electricians, they're plumbers, etc. I'm hopeful that over the next couple decades we can make a continuous change and hopefully see more younger faces in the industry. The bottom line is we need less people that are trying to go viral on social media and create these overnight success stories, and more people out there swinging a hammer and becoming electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, and more.
Now, I kind of ended it early, but I will say this about his last point. Something he mentioned that was very true is that everything we see around us has been built by blue collar workers. And while to us and to people who understand that, that is impressive, we have to think to the kids who are coming up, who are going to replace us when we're old and gray and can't do the work anymore. It's not impressive to them. It's just not. It's not what's being marketed to them. It's not what's being glamorized. It's not what's being fantasized about on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, on Snapchat. It's not. So this is what I would say to that as my last point. I believe the blue collar industry and blue collar workers are doing an extremely poor job of marketing. Extremely poor job. One organization I will say that does a good job of this sometimes is the military. They run ads. They are heavy on the ground. They're in the schools. They're in the communities now more so trying to get people to fulfill these roles because they know that it's very important. And some of the jobs that you do in the military looks very, very cool. And that's how they're able to get people when you're talking about certain blue collar jobs, like to me, plumbing, it don't look cool at all. Now the money that I see some of the guys make, or that he mentioned, $250 an hour. I don't care what's in that toilet. I'm putting my hand in there, or what's in that pipe. I'm going in there. Period. But to a child, that doesn't look cool. The blue collar industry has done a terrible job, I believe, in marketing themselves in a way that entices the younger generation. I don't see blue collar workers or the industry within itself trying to make it look cool. And as sad as that is to say, that's what you need for this younger generation. I understand that the funding is being cut from a lot of these programs and from a lot of these industries, but that's where you have to take it upon yourself as an individual to market it better, right? Not being funny, the street guys do it all the time. I don't think there's anything cool about going to jail. I don't think there's anything cool about being in prison, being away from your family, eating crappy food, getting told what to do, fighting every day. I don't think there's anything cool about prison. But rappers will go and portray a life, or street guys will go and portray a life to where it's all funded from dirty money, which causes them to end up in two places, prison or the graveyard. And kids think that's cool until it's not cool. So why don't blue collar workers take a note out of other people's textbook and use that for good? That's what we have to do as blue collar workers. I think when kids start to see that you can have a certain type of lifestyle as well from the blue collar jobs, then they will gravitate more towards it. This is real. You can have all this stuff from having that type of job or from having that kind of company and hiring quality workers. I knew it was possible then, but I didn't really know the ins and outs like I do now. And I think that's where we have to do a better job at for the youth. 21 and up, even 18 and up, it's a wrap. They already got their mind made up. But for somebody that's 12, 8, 10, 14, for you to put them alongside and say, hey, man, like, yeah, we do a dirty job, but we live a good life too. We can live just like them people, if not better, doing what we do over a long period of time, and we got the knowledge base to maintain the structure that this country was built on and the foundation that everything was built on, and we can sustain it all by ourselves. We don't need any help. That's when kids are going to gravitate towards it. So, not knocking anything in the blue collar industry or any blue collar worker, but it's a terrible job at marketing right now. Terrible, terrible. And I'm just saying, from me growing up seeing what I seen. I only seen people in suits with nice watches, driving nice cars. Never seen really anybody with a hard hat that look like they're making it in life until now. It was never really glamorized. It was never really like sought after so much so as I think it should be now. Um, that's all. I specifically broke it down with construction because that's the field I'm in. I love the talk that the guy gave. I love the way he broke the business side down of it, and the bidding and pricing, and the wages that you pay laborers. I love that part of it because that's something that's not often talked about. And he did bring in both sides of why he can see why people don't, and also the lack and the skill gap that we are deficient in right now. I love the way he broke that down. But I do feel like because I'm in this field now and I'm in this type of work that I should be promoting it and just telling people there are other options. You don't have to be an influencer, a YouTuber. You don't have to, be an accountant. Not saying that anything's wrong with being in the office or being in the cubicle or anything like that. But just to let you guys know there are other options of things that you can do. You can still get knowledge and experience in and still have a good time and enjoy your life and be fulfilled, make a lot of money, and live a decent life. There are options out there for you guys. All right. Now, with that being said, I'm out.